Right now, you're being controlled. Not by external circumstances, not by other people, by your reactions. Every time someone says something that triggers you, every time a situation makes you emotional, every time you respond without thinking, you're handing control of your life to forces outside yourself. The Stoics figured out 2,000 years ago what neuroscience is proving today. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is your power. In that space is your freedom. In the next hour, you're going to learn how to master that space, how to stop reacting like a puppet and start responding like a master. This is emotional mastery. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Your reactions are destroying your life. Let's start with something you need to hear. Your reactions are destroying your life, not your circumstances. Not your bad luck, not the difficult people around you, your reactions, your automatic, emotional, uncontrolled reactions. Every single one of them is costing you something, and the bill is adding up. Let me show you the hidden cost of reactivity. Someone criticizes your work. You react defensively. You don't listen to the feedback. You don't improve. 6 months later, you're passed over for promotion. That reaction cost you advancement. Your partner says something that bothers you. You react with anger. You say things you don't mean. The argument escalates. The relationship deteriorates. That reaction cost you intimacy. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You react with rage. You speed up. You tailgate. You arrive at your destination stressed, angry, unable to focus. That reaction cost you peace. These aren't isolated incidents. They're patterns. Patterns that are silently sabotaging every area of your life. Relationships damaged by anger. Opportunities lost to fear. Respect destroyed by defensiveness. Career advancement blocked by emotional outbursts. Health compromised by stress reactions. The hidden cost isn't hidden anymore. It's right there in your life. Look around. Where are you stuck? Where are you struggling? Where are you losing? Your reactions are writing checks your life has to cash. Let me give you a real example. An executive, senior position, on track for VP, sitting in a board meeting. Someone challenges his strategy, publicly, in front of everyone. He reacts, immediately, defensively, emotionally, raises his voice, gets aggressive, makes it personal, shuts down the discussion. The meeting ends awkwardly. The deal falls through. 3 months later, he's asked to leave the company. Not because his strategy was wrong, because he couldn't control his reaction. One moment, one emotional reaction, career destroyed, that's the cost. That's what reactivity does to you. You have a choice. You can continue reacting and continue paying this price, or you can learn to respond and take back control. Now let's talk about what's really happening when you react. The puppet versus the master. When you react emotionally, you're a puppet, and everyone else is holding your strings. Someone says something, you react. They pulled the string, you danced. Someone does something, you lose control. They pulled the string, you danced. Someone has an opinion about you, you get defensive. They pulled the string, you danced. That's the key. When you react, they control you. When you respond, you control yourself. Say it. When you react, they control you. When you respond, you control yourself. Think about your last emotional reaction. Who was really in control? You or the person who triggered you? The truth is, they were. They said something or did something and you had no choice but to react. Your emotions took over. Your behavior became automatic. You surrendered control. That's what a puppet does. Someone pulls the strings, the puppet moves, no choice, no autonomy, no power. Now think about a master. Someone who responds instead of reacts. Same trigger, different outcome. Someone criticizes them. They pause, they consider. They respond with either acceptance or clarity. They stay in control. Someone tries to provoke them. They observe. They choose. They respond with either silence or strategy. They stay in control. Someone has an opinion about them. They notice it. They evaluate it. They respond with either indifference or action. They stay in control. That's power. Real power. Not the power to control others. The power to control yourself. When you react, they control you. When you respond, you control yourself. The choice between being a puppet and being a master starts with recognizing that your reactions are surrender. Every time you react emotionally, you're giving up. You're handing control to whoever or whatever triggered you. You have a choice. Puppet or master. Reaction or response. Surrender or control. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about what's happening in your brain when you react. The brain on autopilot. Your brain has two systems. System 1, fast, automatic, emotional. System 2, slow, deliberate, rational. When you react, System 1 is in charge. Your amygdala, the primitive emotional part of your brain, hijacks your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part. It happens in milliseconds. Trigger happens. Amygdala detects threat. Fight or flight response activates. Rational thinking shuts down. You react. You're not making a choice. You're not thinking. You're just reacting. Your brain's primitive survival system is taking over. It's operating on autopilot without your conscious input. This made sense when we were running from lions. The saber-toothed tiger appears. You don't think, you run. Reaction saves your life. But you're not running from tigers anymore. You're sitting in meetings, having conversations, navigating relationships, building a career, and your brain is still treating every challenge like a life or death threat. Someone criticizes you. Same brain response as a tiger attack. Someone disagrees with you. Fight or flight activates. That's the problem. Your autopilot system is designed for physical survival, not modern success. It's designed for reaction, not response. It's designed for immediate action, not thoughtful strategy. And it's destroying your life. Because here's what happens when you're on autopilot. You say things you don't mean. You make decisions you regret. You damage relationships you value. You create problems that didn't need to exist. All because your amygdala hijacked your prefrontal cortex. All because you were operating on autopilot. All because you reacted instead of responded. The first step to emotional mastery is understanding that your default state is autopilot. And autopilot is destroying your life. You have a choice. You can continue operating on autopilot, letting your primitive brain control you, or you can learn to override the autopilot and take conscious control. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about not being controlled by them. It's not about never reacting. It's about choosing when and how you respond. When you react, they control you. When you respond, you control yourself. Your reactions are destroying your life, your relationships, your opportunities, your peace, your potential. But destruction isn't inevitable. It's a choice you've been making unconsciously up until now. Starting today, you make a different choice. You recognize the cost. You refuse to be a puppet. You override the autopilot. You've seen the damage your reactions cause. You've understood that reactivity is surrender, not strength. You've learned that your brain's autopilot is sabotaging your success. Now it's time to learn the one technique that changes everything. The simple rule that creates space between trigger and action, transforming you from puppet to master. Chapter 2. The 3-second rule that changes everything. There's a space. Between what happens to you and how you respond, there's a space. And in that space lies your freedom. Viktor Frankl figured this out in a concentration camp. Auschwitz. The worst circumstances imaginable. Stripped of everything. Family murdered. Freedom taken. Dignity destroyed. And in that hell, he discovered something revolutionary. He couldn't control what happened to him. But he could control his response. And between the stimulus, what they did to him, and his response, how he reacted internally, there was a space, a moment, a gap. A choice. That space was his freedom. The one thing they couldn't take from him. You're not in a concentration camp, but the principle is the same. You can't control what happens to you. You can control your response. And between the two, there's a space. That space is where transformation happens. Most people don't know this space exists. Something happens, they react. Instantly, automatically, no gap, no choice, no freedom. But the space is there. You've just been moving through it too fast to notice it. This chapter is about slowing down, about making that space visible, about learning to live in that gap between trigger and action. 3 seconds, that's all you need. 3 seconds to shift from reaction to response. 3 seconds to reclaim your power. 3 seconds to choose freedom over autopilot. Let me show you exactly how this works. Someone insults you. In the old way, you fire back instantly. Reaction. Autopilot. No choice. You say something you'll regret. The situation escalates. Everyone loses. In the new way, you pause. 3 seconds. You notice the insult, you feel the emotion, but you don't act on it immediately. 1, 2, 3. Then you choose your response. Maybe you address it calmly. Maybe you ignore it completely. Maybe you walk away. Doesn't matter what you choose. What matters is that you chose. Those 3 seconds are the difference between wisdom and regret. That's the key. The 3-second rule isn't about what you do. It's about creating space to choose what you do. You have a choice. React instantly and surrender control, or pause 3 seconds and take control. Now let's make this practical. The mental speed bump. When triggered, take 3 deep breaths before speaking or acting. 3 deep breaths. That's the technique. That's the whole thing. Sounds simple. It is simple. But simple doesn't mean easy, and simple doesn't mean powerless. Here's the exact protocol, step by step. Step 1. Trigger happens. Someone says something. Something occurs. You feel the emotional surge. Step 2. You notice it. This is critical. You recognize that you've been triggered. You feel the anger, the fear, the defensiveness rising. Step 3. You breathe. 1 deep breath. 2 deep breaths. 3 deep breaths. Slow, intentional, conscious. Step 4. You respond, not react, respond. You choose what to do next. Pause, breathe, respond, say it. Pause, breathe, respond. This simple sequence, practiced consistently, rewires your brain from reactive to responsive. Let me explain what's happening physiologically. When you're triggered, your amygdala fires. Your sympathetic nervous system activates. Your body prepares for fight or flight. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing gets shallow. Your prefrontal cortex, the thinking part, shuts down. That's the reaction cycle. Fast, automatic, overwhelming. The 3 breaths interrupt that cycle. Deep breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the calm system, the rest and digest system. It signals to your body that there's no immediate threat. Your heart rate slows, your breathing deepens. Your prefrontal cortex comes back online. In 3 breaths, about 3 seconds, you've created enough physiological interruption to override the automatic reaction. You've installed a mental speed bump. Your emotions hit that speed bump and have to slow down. That slowdown creates the space. That space creates the choice. Pause, breathe, respond. The 3 seconds feel like an eternity at first. When you're triggered and angry, 3 seconds of breathing feels like torture. Every part of you wants to react now. That discomfort is the price of mastery. You sit with it. You breathe through it. You don't act on it. Eventually, those 3 seconds become automatic. Your brain learns the pattern. Trigger, pause, breathe, respond. It becomes your new default, but you have to practice. Every single time you're triggered, no exceptions. Even small triggers, especially small triggers. Someone's late. Pause, breathe, respond. Email annoys you. Pause, breathe, respond. Traffic frustrates you. Pause, breathe, respond. Every repetition builds the neural pathway. Every pause strengthens the pattern. Every breath rewires the brain. Now let's talk about the timeline, from milliseconds to mastery. Most people operate on a millisecond timeline. Trigger to reaction is instant. 0 gap. No choice. Pure reflex. Something happens at time 0. They react at time 0.5, half a second. That's all the time between stimulus and action. Not enough time to think. Not enough time to choose. Not enough time to be anything other than a puppet of your emotions. Mastery lives in expanding that timeline from milliseconds to seconds. 3 seconds gives your prefrontal cortex time to override your amygdala. 3 seconds lets you think instead of just feel. 3 seconds transforms you from reactive to responsive. Let me give you a real example. An athlete. Basketball player, talented, skilled, but had a problem. Technical fouls every game. Sometimes multiple per game. Someone pushed him, he pushed back. Referee made a bad call, he argued aggressively. Opponent talked trash, he escalated. Reactive, instant, no control. Cost his team games, cost him playing time, cost him respect. Then he learned the 3-second rule. Someone pushed him, pause, 3 breaths, walk away. Bad call, pause, 3 breaths, accept it and play. Trash talk, pause, 3 breaths, let it go. First few games were torture. Every fiber of his being wanted to react instantly. But he breathed. He paused. He responded. By mid-season, 0 technical fouls. Team captain, respected by coaches and players alike. Same triggers, different response. completely different outcome. That's what 3 seconds does. That's the power of the pause. You have a choice. You can continue operating on milliseconds, trigger, react, regret, or you can expand to seconds, trigger, pause, breathe, respond, win. It's not about being emotionless. It's about not being controlled by emotions. It's not about never reacting. It's about choosing when and how you respond. Pause, breathe, respond, 3 seconds. That's all it takes. 3 seconds between stimulus and response. 3 seconds where your freedom lives. 3 seconds that change everything. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need perfect conditions to breathe. You don't need to feel calm to respond consciously. You just need 3 seconds. And the discipline to use them. You've learned to create the space. You've installed the mental speed bump. You've expanded your timeline from milliseconds to mastery. But there's still a trap waiting for you. A habit of thinking that turns every trigger into a personal attack. And until you break that habit, you'll keep reacting, no matter how many times you pause. Chapter 3. Stop taking everything personally. Here's the fundamental Stoic truth that will change your life. It's not about you. Read that again. It's not about you. Most of what people say and do is about them, not you. Their criticism, it reflects their insecurities, their anger, it reveals their pain, their judgment, it exposes their limitations. When someone lashes out at you, that's not about you. That's about what's happening inside them. When someone criticizes you harshly, that's not about you. That's about their own standards, fears, and wounds. When someone dismisses you, ignores you, disrespects you, that's not about you. That's about them. Their words tell me about them, not about me. Say it. Their words tell me about them, not about me. This is the key to stopping reactivity. Because here's what happens. You take things personally. You make everything about you. And that personalization is what triggers your reaction. Someone is rude to you. You make it mean they don't respect you. You take it personally. You react. Someone criticizes your work. You make it mean you're not good enough. You take it personally. You react. Someone doesn't invite you. You make it mean you're not valued. You take it personally. You react. But what if you didn't take it personally? What if you saw it for what it actually is? Information about them, not about you. That's the shift. That's the transformation. That's how you stop reacting to everything that happens around you. Taking things personally is a choice you make, not a requirement. You have a choice. Make everything about you and react constantly, or recognize that most things aren't about you at all and respond consciously. Now let's expose the personalization trap. Most reactive behavior comes from one source: personalizing external events. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The event is, a car changed lanes in front of you. That's it. That's the fact. But you don't see it that way. You personalize it. You make it mean, they disrespected me. They think they're more important than me. They did that to me. Now it's personal. Now you're angry. Now you react. You honk. You speed up. You tailgate. You arrive stressed and furious. All because you personalized a lane change. Someone doesn't respond to your text. The event is, they haven't replied yet. That's it. That's the fact. But you personalize it. You make it mean, they don't care about me. I'm not important to them. They're ignoring me. Now it's personal. Now you're hurt. Now you react. You send another text. You get passive-aggressive. You create problems that didn't exist. All because you personalized a delayed response. That's the trap. The act of personalization is what triggers your reaction. The event is neutral. Your interpretation makes it personal. Your personalization makes it painful. Your pain makes you reactive. Let me show you this clearly. 2 people, same situation, same critical feedback in a meeting. Person A personalizes it. They're saying I'm not good enough. They don't think I'm capable. This is an attack on me. Reaction, defensive, argumentative, emotional, shuts down the conversation, damages relationships, learns nothing. Person B doesn't personalize it. They're offering feedback on this project. Let me listen and see if it's valid. Response: open, curious, calm, considers the feedback objectively, maintains relationships, improves if the feedback is useful. Same stimulus, different interpretation, completely different outcome. That's the key. It's not about what happens, it's about whether you personalize what happens. Person A made it about them, person B saw it as information. One reacted, one responded. You have a choice. You can continue personalizing everything and reacting to everything, or you can stop making things about you and start responding consciously. Their words tell me about them, not about me. Now let's make this practical. The observer position. This is an ancient Stoic practice. When something happens, you step back mentally and observe it from a detached perspective, like watching a movie instead of being in the scene. When you're in the scene, everything feels personal. Everything feels like it's happening to you. Everything triggers you. When you're watching the movie, you can see clearly. You can observe without being overwhelmed. You can see what's really happening instead of just reacting to how it feels. Here's the mental shift. Someone is angry. Old way. They're angry at me and I need to defend myself. New way. Someone is angry. That's interesting. Someone criticizes you. Old way. They're attacking me and I need to fight back. New way. Someone offered critical feedback. Let me evaluate it. Someone ignores you. Old way. They don't respect me and I need to make them pay attention. New way. Someone didn't respond. I wonder why. See the difference? The observer position creates instant emotional distance. That distance creates space. That space creates choice. You're not suppressing emotion. You're not pretending you don't care. You're observing objectively instead of reacting personally. Practice this today. When something happens, catch yourself before you personalize it. Someone is rude. Don't make it. They're rude to me. Make it. They're displaying rude behavior. Someone criticizes. Don't make it. They think I'm inadequate. Make it. They have an opinion about this work. Someone disagrees. Don't make it. They're against me. Make it. They have a different perspective. The language shift matters. When you describe events without making them about you, you remove the personalization. Without personalization, there's nothing to react to. Practice seeing events as neutral until you assign meaning, and then assign meaning consciously, not reactively. That's mastery. That's the observer position. That's how you stop taking everything personally. You don't need their permission to adopt this perspective. You don't need to explain to them that you're not taking it personally. You just observe instead of personalize. Their words tell me about them, not about me. It's not about you. It never was. Their anger is about their pain. Their criticism is about their standards. Their judgment is about their limitations. When you internalize this, really internalize it, you become unreactive, not because you don't care, because you see clearly. You stop making everything about you, and when you stop making everything about you, you stop reacting to everything. That's freedom. That's power. That's emotional mastery. You have a choice. Continue taking everything personally and continue reacting emotionally. Or step into the observer position and respond consciously. Their words tell me about them, not about me. Not as a defense mechanism, as a clear-eyed truth. You've stopped taking things personally, you've stepped into the observer position, you've created emotional distance, but you're still feeling the emotions, and that's good. The question isn't whether you feel them. The question is what you do with them, because emotions aren't the enemy. How you interpret them is. Chapter 4. Emotions are data, not directions. Your emotions aren't commands to obey. They're information to consider. Let me say that again. Your emotions aren't commands, they're information. Most people treat emotions like orders from a superior officer. Anger says attack, they attack. Fear says flee, they flee. Sadness says collapse, they collapse. That's not emotional intelligence, that's emotional slavery. Real emotional intelligence is different. It's using emotions as data points rather than autopilot instructions. Anger tells you a boundary may have been crossed. That's information. It doesn't tell you to lash out. It tells you to pay attention. Fear tells you to assess risk. That's information. It doesn't tell you to run away. It tells you to evaluate the situation. Sadness tells you something matters to you. That's information. It doesn't tell you to give up. It tells you what you value. Emotions are signals. Data points, information sources. They're not commands. Feel the emotion. Don't become the emotion. Say it. Feel the emotion. Don't become the emotion. This is the foundation of emotional mastery. You observe the anger without attacking. You notice the fear without fleeing. You acknowledge the sadness without collapsing. The emotion is there. You see it. You feel it. But you don't obey it automatically. That's the key. Emotions provide valuable information, but they don't get to make your decisions for you. You have a choice. Treat emotions like commands and react automatically, or treat emotions like data and respond consciously. Now let me give you an analogy that makes this crystal clear. Your emotions are like a car's dashboard lights. The check engine light comes on. That's information, important information. Something needs attention, but you don't let the car drive itself just because a light came on. You're still steering. You're still in control. The light tells you, pay attention to this. Something requires evaluation. It doesn't tell you, panic, pull over immediately, abandon the car. You take the information, you assess it, you decide what to do about it. Same with emotions. Strong emotion? That's like a warning light, important information requiring attention, but not requiring immediate reactive action. You feel anger. Dashboard light. Boundary issue detected, requires evaluation. You don't immediately attack, you assess. Is this boundary important? Was it actually crossed? How should I address this? You feel fear. Dashboard light. Potential threat detected, requires evaluation. You don't immediately flee, you assess. Is this threat real? How serious? What's the best response? You feel sadness. Dashboard light. Loss or disappointment detected, requires evaluation. You don't immediately collapse, you assess. What was lost? Why does it matter? What can I learn? The dashboard provides information. You still get to steer. Let me give you a real example. A negotiator, high-stakes business deal, tense moment. The other party makes an offer that's far below what's fair. The negotiator feels anger, strong anger, dashboard light flashing. Old way, react. That's insulting. We're done here. Storm out. Deal dies. Everyone loses. New way, use the data. I'm feeling anger. That tells me they may be trying to take advantage. Let me address this strategically. She pauses. She breathes. She responds, that offer doesn't work for us. Here's why. And here's what would work. Calm, clear, strategic. She felt the anger. She didn't become the anger. She used the information it provided. She stayed in control. The negotiation continued. They reached an agreement. Deal saved. Same emotion, different approach, completely different outcome. That's what happens when you treat emotions as data instead of directions. You don't need their permission to interpret your emotions this way. You don't need to suppress what you feel. You just need to use it as information instead of instruction. Now let's make this actionable. The framework, 4 steps, from emotional hijack to emotional intelligence. Step 1, notice the emotion. You feel something. You recognize it. I'm experiencing an emotion right now. Most people skip this step. They go straight from trigger to reaction without ever consciously noticing the emotion. You pause. You notice. I feel something. Step 2, name it specifically. Don't just say, I feel bad. Get specific. Angry, afraid, disappointed, frustrated, hurt. Naming it specifically activates your prefrontal cortex. It creates distance between you and the emotion. I feel angry, not I am angry. You feel it. You're not it. Step 3, ask what it's telling you. This is where the emotion becomes data. What information is this emotion providing? I feel angry. What's this telling me? My boundary was crossed. Someone treated me disrespectfully. I need to address this. The emotion has meaning. It's giving you information. Extract that information. Step 4, decide consciously how to respond. Now you choose. Based on the information, what's the best response? I feel angry about the boundary violation. The best response is to calmly and clearly restate my boundary. Not reaction. Response. Conscious. Calculated. Chosen. The formula is simple. I feel emotion. That tells me information. I choose to response. Most people skip straight from feeling to reacting. Feel anger, attack. Feel fear, flee. Feel sadness, collapse. Masters feel, think, then respond. Feel anger, assess, address strategically. Feel fear, evaluate, decide consciously. Feel sadness, understand, move forward intentionally. Let's practice this right now with different emotions. I feel frustrated. That tells me my expectations aren't being met. I choose to communicate clearly what I need. I feel anxious. That tells me I care about this outcome. I choose to prepare thoroughly and then let go of what I can't control. I feel disappointed. That tells me I hope for something different. I choose to acknowledge the disappointment and adjust my strategy. See how this works? The emotion provides data. You extract the information. You choose the response. Feel the emotion. Don't become the emotion. This isn't about being robotic. This isn't about suppressing feelings. This is about using emotions as the valuable information they are instead of letting them control you. You have a choice. Let emotions hijack you and react automatically, or use emotions to inform you and respond consciously. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being guided by wisdom, not controlled by feeling. It's not about ignoring data. It's about reading data correctly and then steering consciously. Feel the emotion. Don't become the emotion. Practice the framework. Notice, name, ask, decide. Every single time. You don't need perfect conditions to start. You just need the next emotion that arises, and there will be one, soon. When it comes, you'll have a choice. React like you always have, or use the framework and respond like a master. You've learned to read emotional data. You've stopped letting emotions steer. You've practiced the framework. But all of this only works if you can create the gap, the pause where wisdom lives. And that pause? It's not just a nice idea. It's a trainable skill. It's the difference between being controlled and being in control. Chapter 5. The power of the pause. Every master in every field operates with a pause. The chess grandmaster doesn't move immediately. They study the board. They consider options. They calculate consequences. Then they move. The surgeon doesn't cut immediately. They pause. They verify. They prepare. Then they cut. The negotiator doesn't speak immediately. They think. They consider. They strategize. Then they speak. The pause isn't hesitation. The pause isn't weakness. The pause is strategic power. And you need to master it. Because here's the truth. The pause is where you shift from reaction to response. Reaction is automatic, emotional, often regrettable. Response is conscious, calculated, powerful. The pause is the gap between the two. And in that gap, everything changes. The pause is where power lives. Say it. The pause is where power lives. Think about every mistake you've made in the last month. Every argument you regret. Every email you wish you hadn't sent. Every word you wish you could take back. What do they all have in common? No pause. You reacted immediately. You didn't give yourself space to think, to breathe, to choose. Now think about your best decisions, your wisest moments, your most powerful responses. What do they have in common? You paused. You gave yourself space. You chose consciously instead of reacting automatically. That's the difference. That's what the pause does. Every time you pause before responding, you're exercising the muscle of mastery. And like any muscle, it needs to be trained. You have a choice. Continue reacting immediately and continue regretting it, or start pausing and start mastering. Now let's talk about building pause capacity. You can't go from zero pause to perfect pause overnight. You need to train it, build it, strengthen it. Start with low-stakes situations. Morning coffee order. Before you speak, pause 1 second. Just 1 second of silence before you say your order. Email reply. Before you hit send, pause. Read it once more, then send. Casual conversation. Before you answer a question, pause, even half a second. Just enough to create the habit. This feels awkward at first, unnatural. You're used to immediate response, instant reaction. But you're training a new pattern. You're building the pause muscle. Practice this for a week. Every low-stakes interaction. Pause before responding. Then escalate to medium-stress scenarios. Meeting at work. Someone asks your opinion. Pause 3 seconds before speaking. Disagreement with your partner. They say something that bothers you. Pause before responding. Frustrating situation. Traffic. Long line. Slow service. Pause before reacting. This is harder. Your emotions are involved. Your autopilot wants to take over, but you pause anyway. You breathe. You choose your response. Practice this for 2 weeks. Every medium-stress situation, pause before responding, then deploy it in high-stakes moments. Conflict, criticism, crisis. The moments that really matter. Someone attacks you. Pause. Someone challenges you publicly. Pause. Something goes wrong and everyone's panicking. Pause. This is mastery. This is where the pause becomes power. Real example, an executive, smart, capable, but known for reactive comments in meetings, quick responses that often created problems, decided to change, committed to pausing 3 seconds before responding in every meeting, every single time. First week was torture. The silence felt eternal. The pressure to fill it was immense, but he held the pause. 3 seconds, every time. Second week got easier. The pause felt less awkward. His responses got better. By week 4, something shifted. His team started noticing. His responses were more thoughtful, more insightful, more powerful. By month 3, his reputation changed. He became known for wisdom, not reactivity, for strategic thinking, not emotional responses. Same person, same intelligence, different pause capacity, completely different results. That's what training does. You build the capacity, the pause becomes natural, and your responses transform. You don't need their permission to practice this. You don't need anyone's approval to pause before responding. You just start, today, with your next interaction. The pause is where power lives. Now let's talk about what actually happens in the pause. Neuroscience first. When you pause, your amygdala calms down. That's the emotional, reactive part of your brain. Your prefrontal cortex engages. That's the thinking, strategic part of your brain. Your sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, deactivates. Your parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest, activates. Your heart rate slows. Your breathing deepens. Your perspective clears. All of this happens in seconds, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. But those seconds are magic. Because in the pause, you remember your values. You reconnect with who you want to be, not just who you've been. In the pause, you consider consequences. What will happen if I say this? What will happen if I do that? In the pause, your options multiply. Reaction gives you one path, automatic response. Pause gives you multiple paths, strategic choices. In the pause, you choose who you want to be instead of defaulting to who you've always been. That's the transformation, from reactive victim to responsive master. Someone insults you. Without pause, immediate defensive attack, relationship damaged. With pause, interesting, they're upset about something. How do I want to respond? Calm, strategic, relationship preserved or improved. Someone criticizes your work. Without pause, immediate defensive justification, learning blocked. With pause, let me consider if this feedback is valid. Open, growth-oriented, learning-enabled. Crisis happens. Without pause, immediate panic and poor decisions. Problem multiplied. With pause, what's actually happening? What are my options? Calm, strategic, problem solved. The pause is the difference between being controlled and being in control. It's not about being slow. It's about being deliberate. It's not about hesitation. It's about strategy. It's not about weakness. It's about power. The pause is where power lives. You have a choice. Continue reacting immediately. Fast, emotional, often wrong. Or start pausing, strategic, conscious, powerful. The pause muscle needs training. Start today. Low stakes. Build up. Make it habit. Because every time you pause, you're proving to yourself that you're in control. That you're not a slave to your reactions. That you're a master of your responses. The pause is 3 seconds of space between stimulus and response. In that space lives your freedom, your power, your mastery. You don't need perfect conditions to start pausing. You just need your next interaction. And it's coming. Soon. When it comes, pause. Even 1 second. Feel the power of that gap. Then respond consciously. The pause is where power lives. Make it your home. You've mastered the pause. You've built the capacity. You've learned what happens in that gap. But there's something powerful waiting for you in every trigger you experience. Your triggers aren't random. They're revealing. And when you learn to read them correctly, they transform from landmines into treasure maps. Chapter 6. Your triggers are your teachers. Your triggers aren't random. They're not accidents. They're not coincidences. They're not just bad luck. Your triggers are revealing something important, something you need to see. Every person has specific triggers, Patterns of situations, words, or behaviors that predictably cause emotional reactions. You get interrupted, triggered. You get criticized, triggered. You get dismissed, triggered. You're not invited, triggered. These aren't random, they're patterns, and patterns mean something. Your triggers are revealing your unhealed wounds, your unmet needs, your unconscious beliefs. The trigger is a teacher. It's showing you exactly where you need to grow. What triggers me, teaches me. Say it. What triggers me, teaches me. Most people avoid their triggers. They arrange their life to minimize getting triggered. They avoid certain people, certain situations, certain conversations. That's the wrong approach. You can't grow by avoiding. You grow by facing. Instead of avoiding triggers, map them, write them down, study them. The trigger map. This is your assignment for this week. Every time you have a strong emotional reaction, write it down. What happened? What was said? Who was involved? What emotion did you feel? Do this for 7 days. Track every trigger. At the end of the week, look at the list. You'll see patterns. Maybe you're triggered every time someone questions your competence. That's revealing your unconscious belief that you're not good enough. Maybe you're triggered every time someone doesn't respond immediately. That's revealing your unmet need for validation and attention. Maybe you're triggered every time plans change. That's revealing your need for control and your fear of uncertainty. The patterns reveal the truth you've been avoiding, the truth you need to face. What triggers me, teaches me. This isn't about self-criticism. This is about self-knowledge. You can't heal what you don't acknowledge. You can't grow where you don't see the need. Your triggers are showing you exactly where you need to grow. You have a choice. Continue avoiding your triggers and stay stuck, or map them, study them, learn from them, and grow. Now let's transform those triggers from landmines into training grounds. Once you've mapped your triggers, everything changes. Because now you know, now you're aware, now you can prepare. Every trigger becomes an opportunity to practice the pause, an opportunity to choose response over reaction, an opportunity to build emotional mastery. The reframe is simple. I'm not triggered, I'm being tested, and I'm going to pass this test. Not, why is this happening to me, but what is this teaching me? Not, I can't handle this, but this is my training ground. That's the key. Triggers are tests, and every test is an opportunity to prove you've grown. Let me show you what this looks like. Someone is triggered by being interrupted. Every time someone cuts them off in conversation, they react with anger, defensive, aggressive, shuts down communication. They map the trigger. They see the pattern. Being interrupted makes them feel disrespected and unimportant. Now they transform it. Every time someone interrupts them, they recognize, I'm being tested. This is my training ground. Trigger happens, someone interrupts. They feel the anger rising, but instead of reacting, they pause. They notice the emotion. They breathe. Then they respond calmly. Maybe they wait for the person to finish and then continue their point. Maybe they politely say, let me finish this thought. Maybe they just let it go because it's not important. The key is they chose. They didn't react automatically. They responded consciously. First few times? Hard. Really hard. The old pattern wants to dominate, but they keep practicing. Every interruption becomes a repetition. Every trigger becomes training. Over time, the trigger loses its power. Being interrupted doesn't control them anymore. They notice it. They choose their response. They move on. The landmine became a training ground. The trigger became a teacher. What triggers me, teaches me. You don't need their permission to reframe your triggers. You don't need perfect conditions to start practicing. You just need the next trigger, and it's coming. When it comes, recognize it. I'm being tested. Then pass the test. Pause, choose, respond. Now let's take this even further. Systematic desensitization. You can deliberately expose yourself to your triggers in controlled ways to build immunity. Think of it like allergy shots. Small doses of the allergen, over time building immunity. Same principle. If criticism triggers you, don't avoid criticism. Seek small doses, ask someone for feedback on something low stakes. Practice receiving it neutrally. Thanks for the feedback. I'll consider that. No defensiveness, no explanation, no emotional reaction, just neutral reception. Do this repeatedly. Small doses, low stakes, build the immunity. If feeling dismissed triggers you, don't demand constant attention. Practice situations where you're not the center of attention. Observe your reaction without feeding it. Notice the discomfort. I'm feeling dismissed right now. Interesting. Don't act on it, just observe it. Let it be there without controlling you. Do this repeatedly. The trigger loses power through exposure. If being wrong triggers you, practice being wrong about small things. You're right. I made a mistake on that. No justification, no minimizing, just acknowledgement. Do this repeatedly. Being wrong becomes normal, not threatening. That's systematic desensitization, deliberate exposure, controlled doses, building immunity. Here's the truth. Triggers only have power when they're unconscious and avoided. When you make them conscious, when you map them, study them, understand them, they start losing power. When you face them deliberately, when you seek them out in controlled ways, practice with them, build immunity, they become powerless. Your greatest trigger can become your greatest strength, but only if you're willing to use it as a teacher. Think about it. The thing that used to control you, being criticized, being dismissed, being interrupted, now becomes proof of your growth. It happens. You notice it. You pause. You respond consciously. You move on, not because it doesn't affect you, because you've built the immunity. You've done the work. You've practiced the response. What triggers me teaches me. You have a choice. Continue being controlled by your triggers, or transform them into training grounds. Map them. Face them. Practice with them. Build immunity to them. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being in control. It's not about avoiding difficulty. It's about using difficulty as development. It's not about never being triggered. It's about responding masterfully when triggered. Your triggers are your teachers. The lesson is clear. Where you're most reactive is where you need to grow most. And where you grow most is where you'll become most powerful. What triggers me teaches me, not as a platitude, as a practice. You've mapped your triggers. You've transformed them into training grounds. You've built immunity through exposure. But mapping and practicing alone won't save you when it matters most. When the stakes are high and emotions are running hot, you need one more thing. The ability to choose your response strategically, not just react less badly. Chapter 7. Master. The response: control the outcome. You can't control what happens to you. Let me say that again. You cannot control what happens to you. You can't control the economy. You can't control other people. You can't control accidents, illnesses, setbacks, or crises. You can't control the external event, but you control your response, and your response determines everything that happens next. That's the cause-effect chain. External event happens, you respond. That response creates the outcome. Most people get this backwards. They spend all their energy trying to control the external event, trying to control circumstances, trying to control other people. Impossible, exhausting, futile. Masters focus on what they can control, their response. I don't control the situation. I control my response. My response controls the outcome. Say it. I don't control the situation. I control my response. My response controls the outcome. Let me show you this clearly. Two people, same situation, both get laid off, same external event. Person A reacts with victimhood. This is unfair. This is terrible. Why did this happen to me? Spirals into anger and depression, blames, complains, stays stuck. Months later, still unemployed, still bitter. Person B responds with strategy. This happened. What's my next move? Updates resume immediately. Networks aggressively. Considers this an opportunity to find something better. 6 weeks later, new job, better company, higher pay, same external event, different response, completely different outcome. That's the key. The external event didn't determine their future. Their response did. You can't control what happens. You control how you respond. Your response controls what happens next. Person A wasted energy trying to change what already happened, blaming, resenting, wishing it were different. Person B accepted what happened and focused on the response, strategic, action-oriented. Focused on what they could control. I don't control the situation. I control my response. My response controls the outcome. You have a choice. Waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable, or master your response and control what actually matters. Now let's make this practical. The response menu. When you're triggered, you have multiple response options. but reaction makes you blind to them. Reaction sees one path, the automatic, emotional, habitual path. It's the only thing visible when your amygdala is in charge. Response sees multiple paths, but you need to build those paths before you need them. The response menu. You create it in advance. For your common triggers, pre-decide 3 possible responses: minimal response, moderate response, assertive response. When the trigger happens and you pause, you access your menu. You choose consciously instead of reacting automatically. Real example: someone disrespects you publicly. Response. Menu. Response A, minimal, say nothing, walk away, don't engage. Response B, moderate, calmly state your boundary. That's not acceptable. Response C, assertive. Remove yourself and address it later in writing or privately. Having options creates freedom. Reaction eliminates choice. Without the menu, you react automatically. Maybe you attack back. Maybe you get defensive. Maybe you collapse. Whatever your habitual pattern is, that's what happens. With the menu, you pause. You access your options. You choose based on the situation. Is this person important to me? Is this worth my energy? What outcome do I actually want? Then you select from your menu. Build your menu now. Before you need it, what are your common triggers? Write them down. For each trigger, create 3 response options: minimal, moderate, assertive. Store them in your mind. When the trigger happens, pause, access the menu, choose. You don't need their permission to build this menu. You don't need anyone's approval to plan your responses. You just decide. Right now. I don't control the situation. I control my response. My response controls the outcome. Now let's talk about strategic response selection. Not all situations deserve the same response. Some require confrontation. Others require silence. Most require calm boundary setting. How do you know which? The decision matrix. 3 questions. Ask them in the pause. Question 1. Is this worth my energy? Not everything deserves your attention. Not every slight deserves a response. Not every disagreement deserves an argument. Some things are too small to matter. Some people are too insignificant to engage. Some situations resolve themselves if you just let them go. Is this worth my energy? If no, choose minimal response. Ignore it. Walk away. Move on. Question 2. Will engaging improve the situation? Sometimes engaging makes things worse. Sometimes silence is stronger than words. Sometimes walking away is wiser than fighting. Will engaging improve the situation? If no, choose minimal or moderate response. Don't escalate. Don't feed drama. Disengage strategically. Question 3. What outcome do I actually want? This is the most important question. What's your goal here? Do you want to be right? Do you want to teach them a lesson? Do you want revenge? Those are ego goals. They rarely serve you. Or do you want resolution? Do you want to preserve the relationship? Do you want to move forward productively? Those are strategic goals. They serve your actual interests. What outcome do I actually want? Then select the response that serves that outcome. Masters ask these questions in the pause. Reactive people skip straight to emotional action. The difference in life outcomes is staggering. Real scenario: someone criticizes you unfairly in a meeting. Reactive response: defend immediately, get emotional, make it personal, create conflict, damage relationships, prove nothing except that you're reactive. Strategic response: pause, ask the questions. Is this worth my energy? Yes, this is a professional setting and my reputation matters. Will engaging improve the situation? Maybe. If I address it calmly, yes. If I get defensive, no. What outcome do I actually want? I want to correct the misunderstanding without creating drama. I want to maintain professional relationships. Response selection: moderate. I see it differently. Here's the data that led to my decision. Happy to discuss this after the meeting if you'd like more detail. Calm, professional, strategic, effective. You master the response, you control the outcome. Not perfectly, not always, but far more than people who remain reactive. I don't control the situation, I control my response. My response controls the outcome. You have a choice. Continue reacting emotionally and letting circumstances control you, or master your response and control what happens next. It's not about controlling everything. It's about controlling the one thing that actually matters, how you respond. It's not about being perfect, it's about being strategic. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about learning from them and adjusting your response. Build your response menu. Ask the 3 questions. Select strategically. Practice consistently. You don't need perfect circumstances to start, you just need your next trigger. And it's coming. When it comes, pause. Access your menu. Ask the questions. Choose your response. Control the outcome. I don't control the situation. I control my response. My response controls the outcome. You've mastered strategic response selection. You've built your menu. You've learned to control outcomes through conscious choice. But all of this, the pause, the response menu, the strategic selection requires daily practice. Mastery isn't an event, it's a discipline, and that discipline has a structure. Chapter 8. Build your emotional firewall. You strengthen your body with daily exercise. Same principle applies to emotional resilience. You strengthen it with daily practice, not occasional practice, not when you feel like it. Daily practice. Your emotional firewall, your ability to respond instead of react, is built the same way your physical strength is built. Through consistent, deliberate training. Let me give you the exact daily defensive practice, the Stoic morning ritual, 5 minutes every morning before you start your day. Step 1. Visualize potential challenges and triggers you'll face today. Think about your day. What meetings do you have? What people will you interact with? What situations might arise? Where might you get triggered? Where might your reactivity show up? Be specific. I have a meeting with that colleague who always interrupts me. I might get criticized on this project. This client might be difficult. Don't avoid thinking about it. Face it mentally first. Step 2. Pre-decide how you'll respond to each potential trigger. For each challenge you visualized, decide in advance how you'll respond. When that colleague interrupts me, I'll pause, breathe, and calmly finish my point. If I get criticized on this project, I'll listen objectively and consider if the feedback is valid. When that client is difficult, I'll remain calm and professional regardless of their tone. You're pre-programming your responses, building the neural pathway before you need it. Step 3. Remind yourself that your response is your power. I don't control what happens today, I control my response. My response is my power. I will pause before responding. I will choose consciousness over reaction. I will be the master, not the puppet. That's it. 5 minutes. Every morning. Visualize, pre-decide, remind. Real example. A sales professional. High-stress job. Dealing with difficult customers constantly. Reactive. Stressed. Performance suffering. Started the morning ritual. Every day. 5 minutes. Visualize the difficult customer interactions he'd likely face. Pre-decided calm, professional responses. Reminded himself that his response was his power. First week, still got triggered, but slightly less reactive. The pre-programming helped. Second week, noticeable improvement. Stayed calm in situations that used to trigger him. By day 90, transformed. Went from reactive and stressed to responsive and calm. From bottom performer to top performer, same job, same difficult customers, different preparation, completely different outcomes. That's the key. The firewall isn't built through hoping, it's built through daily practice. You have a choice. Face your day unprepared and react to whatever happens, or spend 5 minutes preparing and respond to whatever happens. You don't need their permission to do this ritual. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need 5 minutes every morning. Now, let's talk about the armor of non-attachment. The tighter you hold something, the more you react when it slips away. The more you need a specific outcome, the more you suffer when it doesn't happen. The more you demand reality match your expectations, the more you're controlled by circumstances. That's the problem with attachment. It makes you fragile. Reactive, controlled. The Stoics practice strategic non-attachment, and you need to understand what this means and what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean not caring. It doesn't mean being cold or indifferent. It doesn't mean giving up on your goals. It means loosening your grip, caring about results without being controlled by them, valuing relationships without needing approval, having preferences without demanding reality match them. I want it, but I don't need it. I prefer it, but I don't require it. Say it. I want it, but I don't need it. I prefer it, but I don't require it. This subtle shift creates massive emotional stability. Example, you want to get the promotion, that's fine. Want it, work for it. Do everything you can to earn it, but don't need it. Don't make your entire sense of worth dependent on getting it. I want this promotion, I'm working hard to earn it, but if I don't get it, I'm still valuable. I'll find another path. You're attached to effort, not attached to outcome. Another example, you prefer that your partner responds to your text within an hour. That's fine. Have preferences, communicate them, but don't require it. Don't make their delayed response mean they don't love you. Don't react emotionally every time they take longer than you prefer. I prefer quick responses, but they're busy. Their response time doesn't determine their love or my worth. You're attached to the relationship, not attached to perfect alignment with your preferences. I want it, but I don't need it. I prefer it, but I don't require it. This is how you build emotional armor. You care deeply about things that matter. But you're not controlled by the gap between what you want and what happens. You have a choice. Hold everything tightly and react to every deviation, or hold things lightly and respond to whatever comes. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being unshakable. Now let's talk about pressure testing your firewall. You build the firewall through deliberate exposure to progressively challenging situations. Theory doesn't build it, reading doesn't build it, understanding doesn't build it, practice builds it. Real situations, real triggers, real responses. Start small. Practice staying calm when someone is late. Notice the irritation. Breathe. Choose not to react. They're late, that's annoying, but I'm not going to let this control my emotional state. I'll use this time productively. Small situation, small trigger. Practice the response, progress to medium, stay composed when criticized. Notice the defensiveness rising, pause. Choose to listen objectively. They're offering criticism. I feel defensive. But let me pause and consider if this feedback has value. Medium situation, medium trigger. Practice the response. Advance to high stakes. Maintain response capacity during conflict or crisis. Notice the emotional surge. Breathe deeply. Choose strategic response. This is a crisis. Everyone's panicking. I feel the pressure. But I'm going to pause, think clearly, and respond strategically. High stakes situation. High stakes trigger. Practice the response. That's the training protocol. Progressive exposure. Deliberate practice. Repeated response selection. The firewall isn't built through theory. It's built through repeated practice in real situations. Every time you practice responding instead of reacting, you strengthen the firewall. Every time you choose pause over impulse, you build the armor. Eventually, what used to trigger you becomes just another situation requiring a response. The person who used to make you angry, now just someone who needs a calm boundary. The criticism that used to devastate you, now just information to consider. The crisis that used to make you panic, now just a problem requiring strategic thought. Same triggers, different firewall, completely different experience. You have a choice. Hope your firewall holds when pressure comes. Or build it deliberately through daily practice and progressive exposure. 5 minutes every morning. Visualize, pre-decide, remind. Strategic non-attachment. I want it, but I don't need it. Progressive exposure. Start small, build up, practice constantly. You don't need their permission to build this firewall. You don't need perfect conditions to start. You just need today and tomorrow and the day after that. Daily discipline. That's what builds the firewall. That's what creates emotional mastery. You've built your firewall through daily practice. You've developed non-attachment. You've pressure tested your responses. But none of this matters if you don't maintain it. Mastery isn't achieved once, it's practiced daily. And the Stoics knew this 2,000 years ago. Chapter 9. The Stoic Practice. Daily Discipline. Mastery isn't achieved once, it's practiced daily. The ancient Stoics understood this 2,000 years ago. They didn't just learn principles, they practiced them every single day. Morning practice, evening practice, all-day practice. That's what you need, not understanding. Practice, not theory. Discipline. Let me give you the exact Stoic daily discipline. The morning preview, premeditatio malorum, negative visualization. Every morning you imagine difficulties you might face. You prepare your response in advance. 5 minutes, that's all it takes. Visualize 3 potential challenges today. Be specific, see them clearly in your mind. Challenge 1. I might get stuck in traffic. Imagine it. See yourself sitting in traffic. Feel the frustration starting to rise. Now script your response. If I get stuck in traffic, I will breathe deeply, accept it, and use the time to listen to something valuable. Challenge 2. That colleague might criticize my work in the meeting. Imagine it. See them pointing out flaws. Feel the defensiveness starting. Script your response. If they criticize my work, I will pause, listen objectively, and consider if the feedback has merit before responding. Challenge 3. My partner might say something that bothers me tonight. Imagine it. See the conversation. Feel the irritation beginning. Script your response. If they say something that bothers me, I will pause 3 seconds. Remember they're not attacking me, and respond calmly. That's the practice. Visualize the difficulty. Script the response. Pre-program your behavior. I prepare for adversity so adversity doesn't prepare me. Say it. I prepare for adversity so adversity doesn't prepare me. This is the key. When you visualize the difficulty in advance, it's no longer a surprise. When you script the response, it's already programmed. The challenge happens. You recognize it. This is what I prepared for. Then you execute the response you already decided on. No reactive surprise, only responsive preparation. The preview creates the pause before you even need it. You have a choice. Face your day unprepared and react to whatever happens, or spend 5 minutes preparing and respond to whatever happens. You don't need their permission to do this practice. You don't need perfect conditions, you just need 5 minutes every morning. Now the evening review. Each night before you sleep, you review your day. Where did you react? Where did you respond? What triggered you? How did you handle it? This isn't self-criticism, this is data collection. You're not judging yourself. You're observing yourself, learning from yourself. Get a journal, physical journal, not phone notes. Physical writing activates different neural pathways. 3 questions every night. Question 1. What triggered me today? Be honest. Be specific. Write it down. I got triggered when my colleague interrupted me. I got triggered when I didn't get a response to my email. I got triggered when plans changed unexpectedly. Question 2. How did I respond? Again, honest, specific. No judgment, just observation. When interrupted, I reacted defensively and shut down the conversation. Or, when interrupted, I paused, breathed, and calmly finished my thought. When I didn't get a response, I sent 3 more messages and created unnecessary drama. Or, when I didn't get a response, I noticed my anxiety and chose to wait patiently. Write what actually happened. Truth only. Question 3. What will I do better tomorrow? This is where learning happens. You take the data from today and create the plan for tomorrow. Tomorrow, when I get interrupted, I will use my pre-programmed response. Pause, breathe, calmly continue. Tomorrow, when I don't get an immediate response, I will practice non-attachment. I prefer quick responses, but I don't require them. That's the evening review. Trigger, response, improvement. Do this every single night. 7 days, 30 days, 90 days. The evening review creates conscious awareness of your patterns, and awareness is the first step to change. This nightly practice compounds into massive transformation, because you're learning from every experience instead of just repeating patterns unconsciously. Most people react today the same way they reacted yesterday, and they'll react tomorrow the same way they reacted today. You're different. You review, you learn, you improve, you evolve. I prepare for adversity so adversity doesn't prepare me. You have a choice. Repeat the same reactive patterns forever, or review, learn, and transform daily. Now the all-day practice, the pause practice. Throughout the day, practice pausing in neutral situations. This builds the muscle for high-stakes moments. You can't go from zero pause practice to perfect pause under pressure. You need to train the pause constantly. Pause before answering simple questions. Someone asks, "How are you?" Pause 1 second, then answer. Pause before reacting to minor inconveniences. Coffee takes longer than expected. Pause, breathe, accept it. Pause before speaking in every conversation. They finish talking, pause 1 second, then respond. This feels awkward at first, unnatural, unnecessary in neutral situations. But you're not practicing for neutral situations. You're practicing for high-stakes situations. The pause isn't something you deploy only when triggered. It's a constant practice that becomes your default operating mode. Real example, a leader, smart, effective. But communication was reactive and scattered. Responses came fast but weren't always thoughtful. Committed to the pause practice. Every interaction. 3-second pause before responding. Every question asked. Pause. Every comment made. Pause. Every decision requested. Pause. First week felt eternal. The silence was uncomfortable. The urge to fill it was overwhelming, but he held the pause every time. Second week got easier. The pause started feeling natural. His responses got better. By month 3, transformation. His communication went from reactive and scattered to thoughtful and powerful. Team respected him more. Decisions were better. Leadership improved. Same person, same intelligence, different discipline, completely different outcomes. That's what daily practice does. The pause becomes automatic. Response becomes your default. Mastery becomes your identity. The daily discipline of the pause creates the permanent identity of a responder, not a reactor. You have a choice. Practice the pause only when you remember, or practice it constantly until it becomes who you are. Morning preview. Visualize challenges, script responses, prepare for adversity. Evening review, track triggers, observe responses, learn and improve. All-day pause. Practice constantly. Build the muscle. Make it automatic. This is the Stoic practice. This is daily discipline. This is how masters are made. You don't need their permission to start this practice. You don't need anyone's approval to commit to daily discipline. You just need tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening and every moment in between. It's not about being perfect, it's about being practiced. It's not about never reacting. It's about reacting less and responding more. It's not about achieving mastery. It's about practicing mastery daily. I prepare for adversity so adversity doesn't prepare me. Not as a saying, as a daily discipline. You've learned the Stoic daily practice. You've committed to morning previews, evening reviews, and constant pause training. You've understood that mastery is discipline, not achievement. Now there's only one thing left: integration. Bringing everything together into one final truth that will define how you move through the world from this moment forward. Chapter 10. Responding is power. Reacting is weakness. Everything comes together here. You understand that your reactions have been controlling your life, destroying relationships, sabotaging opportunities, stealing your power. You've learned the 3-second rule: pause, breathe, respond. The space between stimulus and response where your freedom lives. You've stopped personalizing. Their words tell you about them, not about you. It's not about you. It never was. You're using emotions as data. Feel the emotion. Don't become the emotion. Information, not commands. You've built the pause, the strategic gap where power lives, where masters separate themselves from reactors. You've transformed triggers into teachers. What triggers me, teaches me. Your greatest weakness becoming your greatest strength. You've mastered response selection, building the menu, asking the questions, choosing strategically instead of reacting automatically. You've built your firewall, daily practice, strategic non-attachment, progressive exposure, 5 minutes every morning preparing for adversity. You're practicing daily discipline, morning preview, evening review, all-day pause, the Stoic way. Everything comes together into one core truth. Responding is power, reacting is weakness. Say it. Responding is power, reacting is weakness. When you respond, you're in control. You've chosen. You've decided. You're the master of your emotional state, your decisions, your life. When you react, you've surrendered control. Someone else pulled the string. You danced. You're the puppet, not the master. That's the key. This entire book, this entire journey, it comes down to this simple truth. You have a choice. Every moment, every trigger, every challenge, react, automatic, emotional, weak, or respond, conscious, calculated, powerful. This isn't about suppressing emotion. This is about channeling it consciously rather than being controlled by it unconsciously. You feel anger. You don't suppress it. You use it as data. You channel it into clear boundary setting instead of destructive attack. You feel fear. You don't suppress it. You use it as information. You channel it into careful assessment instead of blind flight. You feel sadness. You don't suppress it. You acknowledge what matters. You channel it into meaningful reflection instead of helpless collapse. Responding is power. Reacting is weakness. Now let me show you what the responsive life looks like. You move through challenges calmly, not because you don't care, because you've trained yourself not to be controlled by external triggers. Something goes wrong, everyone around you panics. You pause, you breathe, you assess, you respond strategically. You solve the problem while others are still reacting to it. You handle conflict with composure, not because you avoid conflict, because you engage with it consciously instead of emotionally. Someone attacks you, you don't attack back. You pause, you consider, you respond with either a calm boundary or strategic silence. The conflict de-escalates instead of exploding. You make decisions from clarity, not emotion. Not because you don't feel, because you don't let feelings make your decisions. You're angry about something, you feel it. You acknowledge it, but you don't make the decision in anger. You pause, you wait until clarity returns, then you decide. That's the responsive life, unshakable. Not because nothing affects you, because you've trained yourself to respond instead of react. Real examples, real people, real transformations, the entrepreneur, market chaos, competitors panicking, making reactive decisions, cutting prices, firing staff, creating more problems. This entrepreneur pauses, assesses strategically, sees opportunity where others see crisis, responds with calculated moves, comes out stronger while competitors collapse. Same market, different response, completely different outcome. The parent, child having a tantrum, screaming, throwing things, testing boundaries. Reactive parent, yells back, loses control, escalates the situation, models the exact behavior they're trying to stop. Responsive parent, pauses, stays calm, sets clear boundaries with authority. The tantrum ends because there's nothing to escalate against. Same tantrum, different response, completely different outcome. The professional receives harsh criticism, unfair criticism, public criticism. Reactive professional defends immediately, gets emotional, creates drama, damages relationships, learns nothing. Responsive professional pauses, considers objectively, extracts any valid points, addresses them calmly, maintains relationships, improves from the feedback. Same criticism, different response, completely different outcome. These aren't special people, they're trained people. They've practiced what you've learned in this book, and you can train yourself the same way. Responding is power. Reacting is weakness. You have a choice every day. Starting tomorrow, here's your daily commitment, your morning mantra, part of your Stoic practice. Say this every morning, before you start your day, after your morning preview, make it your operating system. Today, I will not be controlled by my reactions, not by anger, not by fear, not by defensiveness. I control my responses. They don't control me. I will pause between stimulus and response. 3 seconds, every trigger, every challenge. The pause is where power lives. I will observe my emotions without becoming them. Feel the emotion. Don't become the emotion. Information, not commands. I will respond consciously, not react automatically. Choose, decide, control, not surrender. I am not a puppet controlled by circumstances. Others don't pull my strings. Situations don't dictate my behavior, I choose. I am a master who chooses my response. Every response is my choice, my decision, my power. When I react, I surrender power. Reaction is weakness, automatic, controlled, powerless. When I respond, I claim it. Response is power, conscious, chosen, masterful. I am disciplined, I am thoughtful, I am in control. This is my identity. This is who I am. This is how I operate. Today, I respond, not react. Respond. That's the commitment. Say it every morning. Mean it. Live it. This becomes your permanent operating system. The daily reminder that mastery is a choice made moment by moment. Responding is power. Reacting is weakness. You've learned everything you need. Now you practice everything you've learned. Tomorrow morning, your alarm goes off. Before you check your phone. Before you start your day, you say the commitment. Then you do your morning preview, visualize challenges, script responses, prepare for adversity. Then you live your day, pausing constantly, responding consciously, building the muscle. Then tomorrow evening, you review what triggered you, how did you respond, what will you do better. Then you repeat every day for the rest of your life, because mastery isn't achieved, mastery is practiced. You have a choice. Continue reacting and continue being controlled, or start responding and claim your power. The 3-second pause, that's all it takes. 3 seconds between stimulus and response. 3 seconds where your freedom lives. 3 seconds that transform chaos into calculated power. Stop reacting, start responding. The mastery is yours. You are no longer a reactor, you are a responder. Now go prove it. So here's what you know now. You know that your reactions have been destroying your life, damaging relationships, sabotaging opportunities, stealing your power. You know that between stimulus and response there's a space, and in that space lies your freedom. You know the 3-second rule that changes everything. Pause, breathe, respond. You know to stop taking things personally because most of what people do is about them, not you. You know that emotions are data, not directions. Feel them, don't become them. You know the power of the pause, where masters separate themselves from reactors. You know your triggers are your teachers, showing you exactly where you need to grow. You know that mastering your response controls the outcome more than controlling circumstances ever could. You know how to build your emotional firewall through daily practice, and you know that responding is power, while reacting is weakness. The question isn't whether you understand this, the question is whether you'll practice it. Tomorrow you'll be triggered. Someone will say something will happen, you'll feel the surge of emotion, and in that moment you have a choice. React like you always have, or pause and respond like the master you're becoming. 3 seconds, that's all it takes. Pause, breathe, respond. The chaos around you doesn't change. But when you stop reacting and start responding, you transform chaos into calculated power. Your emotional mastery starts now,